Huh? What's this about low income? I'm surprised you're even thinking about marriage with that. When I announced my marriage, my mom immediately insulted my beloved husband. Oh, I should never have let her meet him. My name is Susanna. After graduating from college, I moved to Boston and have been working here for 5 years. I've gotten quite used to Boston. There was another big milestone. I finally got married to my boyfriend of 2 years. But life after marriage hasn't changed as dramatically as one might expect. I'm a game designer, and he's a screenwriter. We're both busy with our jobs we love, so we didn't plan a wedding ceremony. Celebrating with just our close friends was enough for us. These days, a lot of people have photo-only weddings, and we did the same. We took pictures and set out marriage announcement postcards. I'm originally from London, United Kingdom. He's from Los Angeles. We got to know each other in Los Angeles and moved to Boston afterwards. After living in Boston for a year, I've completely adopted the American English accent. When you get married, there are things you have to do. One of them is to formally report our marriage to both of our families. In my family home in London, there's my mom and my sister, Juliet. Dad had already passed away. Before getting married, I called Mom. I'm getting married. We're just registering the marriage, no ceremony. When I said that without asking anything about him, Mom just said, "Oh, okay," and hung up. That attitude of hers made me think, yeah, that figures. I've never been favored by Mom. I take after Dad, and to Mom that must remind her of Dad, with whom she didn't get along well. Mom always favored Juliet, who resembled her since we were young. I only remember being scolded by Mom, often for unreasonable things. If Juliet wants something, you have to give it to her, all right? I don't consider a cold daughter like you as mine. What's with these grades? Can't you even solve such simple problems? You should learn from Juliet. Such an unlovable daughter, just like your father. What a disappointment you turned out to be. It was like this every day. I didn't want to stay at home, so I fled to America under the guise of pursuing the job I wanted. In hindsight, escaping from Mom was significant in healing my scarred heart. In Los Angeles, I did the job I loved, met and married my boyfriend Mason. I thought I was overcaring about Mom, but the thought of seeing her still weighs on me. This is so depressing. Sighing in the airplane is Mason, now my husband. We finally found time for a marriage report meeting, combining it with a meetup of both families. We've been really busy with work, so it only happened after registering our marriage. I felt sorry for Mason's family, but he brushed it off lightly. It's fine. My family doesn't fuss over such things. My sister even had a child before her wedding. My parents were overjoyed about having a grandchild. Dad cried and hugged her husband, thanking him. Mom had to scold Dad for that. Their family seemed so close and loving. Mason hasn't been able to visit home since moving to Boston due to his busy schedule, but he keeps in touch with his parents often. He said it's a relief to be able to exchange messages easily in this era, even when there's no time for calls. As for me, I've never once contacted my home, nor has Mom reached out to me. The first time I contacted them after moving to Boston was to announce my marriage. I was honestly hurt by Mom's usual attitude, even after such a long time. After this meetup, we might end up estranged. It's a complex feeling of loneliness that I have as the plane lands in London. The meetup is to be held in London. I thought Los Angeles, where Mason's family is, might be better, but Mom insisted it absolutely has to be in London. Our family home was quite affluent. After Dad, who was a company executive, passed away, Mom became rich with a substantial inheritance and started acting wealthy. She was adamant about having it at a fancy restaurant in London. When I told him, he said, "That's totally fine," very casually. To me, who tends to overthink, he's refreshingly carefree. It's probably because we're so different that I was drawn to him, and I find comfort in his attitude. His parents agreed too, so it was decided to meet in London. We checked into the hotel, and as I was showing him around London, it suddenly was time for the dinner meetup. Oh, I'm so nervous. You don't have to be nervous. My parents are totally the Los Angeles type, he said. It's not just about meeting your parents. I'm mostly nervous about meeting my mom. I told you about her, right? If you're that nervous, maybe we should have stopped by your family home before the dinner? No, that wouldn't be good. In front of your parents, even mom will probably moderate her tone a bit. But I can't trust her. With that tension, we arrived at the restaurant for the dinner. His parents were already there, which caught us off guard. Oh, you're already here? That was quick. Well, of course, we came from Los Angeles. Airplanes don't run on our schedule. Well, we just wanted to come early and eat those famous fish and chips in town. The fish and chips in London are delicious. Why? We're about to have a meal. Can you even eat more? Of course, it's a different stomach for snacks. He was met with a hearty, rolling laughter. Fleming, my father-in-law, is like a character straight out of a comic book. Fabulous. So, you're his wife, huh? Caught off guard by the sudden attention, I introduced myself. Ah, nice to meet you. I'm sorry for the late greeting. Don't worry about formalities. Let's keep it casual. Really, thank you for marrying this silly son of mine. Hey, Mom, what do you mean by silly son? What do you mean? You are silly. I know all about what you used to hide under your bed. So obvious. Whoa, please stop, not here. Now, Kathy, let's leave it at that. It's all part of being a man, right, Susanna? Yes, I guess so. Although we were just talking outside, I found myself naturally laughing with this truly enjoyable family. Feeling warm and delighted, my mood was suddenly dampened by a new arrival's remark. What's this vulgar scene outside? This is why I can't stand people from America. The one who abruptly arrived with a fully unleashed sharp tongue was, of course, my mom. Mom, it's been a while. Let's go inside quickly. Such vulgar talk outside. It's embarrassing. After a long time, I finally saw Mom again. She was just as I remembered her. With a cold stare, she just glanced at me sharply and quickly went into the restaurant. I'm sorry. Don't worry about it. Maybe our conversation was a bit crude outside. Come on, let's go in. Seeing me downcast, my mother-in-law Kathy said with a smile. But even that smile couldn't ease my frozen expression. We were led to a private room, and the tense meet and greet began. We all introduced ourselves, and then Mason and I together announced our marriage. Congratulations, Kathy said. Wow, now both our daughter and son are married. I'm so happy, Fleming said. But Mom was in a completely different mood. She abruptly asked Mason, So, how much do you earn? Have you ever heard the sound of the air freezing? I distinctly heard a sharp crack in my ears. Mom, that's a bit... my monthly income is... As I panicked, Mason nonchalantly shared his income. He's either too honest or too... Oh well. But as soon as Mom heard it, she laughed disdainfully. Huh, what's that? Such low income. My husband earned many times that, you know. Surprised you even thought about marriage with that. Mom! Let me clarify that Mason's income is not low at all. He may not be a star yet, but he's an up-and-coming screenwriter with an increasing number of programs he's responsible for. Indeed, Dad's final income as an executive might have been several times higher, but Mason is a man with a promising future ahead. I tried to intervene hurriedly this time, but Mom wouldn't stop. What's this? It's the truth, right? And what about you with that outfit? Do you think wearing a brand suit is all it takes? Oh, it's embarrassing. Please stop, I beg you. Don't hurt my happiness any more than this. I'm just so sad. Sad for having a mom with such a poor heart. Our family, not to brag, but we have money. Of course, our home is in Notting Hill. A poor person like you could never even dream of living where we do. It's a different class, you see. Just like I expected from someone Susanna would choose. Mom said this with a sigh. What do you mean by that? Mason's usually smiling eyes were serious as he asked Mom, who seemed to be holding back various emotions. Mom just shrugged her shoulders. Oh, it was just a light joke. Even though I thought such a cold joke was impossible, Mom laughed alone. Susanna has always been a hopeless daughter. Mediocre, not cute, and everything she did was a disappointment, an embarrassment. Juliet was such a lovely child. Are you serious? Susanna is an amazing woman. Mason's retort seemed to further agitate Mom. She laughed through her nose and looked down on me with disdain. You've always been such a useless child. The home of such a man must be poor too. Marrying into a poor family, I wish you would just disappear from my sight. I just couldn't bear it any longer. Biting my lip, clenching my fists, I tried to hold back, but tears finally spilled from my eyes. Yet Mom did not stop. Crying only makes your face uglier, doesn't it? You really are a pitiful child. Marrying someone like you, he must be quite pitiful too. I couldn't take it anymore. I'm sorry, Mason, Fleming, Kathy. It's Mom. Mom is... No, it's my fault. I'm really sorry. I had been harshly criticized since I was a child. The only reason I managed to endure it was because of Dad and Juliet. Above all, Mason saved my heart and filled it with warmth. But in front of Mom, I revert back to my helpless, silent self. I shouldn't have gotten married. I just kept crying and apologizing. Unbelievably, Mom was laughing in this situation. She's like a demon. And it seems like a demon's curse will always follow me. Suddenly, a hand touched my back as I lay face down on the floor. It was a warm, comforting hand. It's okay, Susanna. It was Kathy's voice, as warm as her hand. Looking at you, it's clear. You're such a good girl. My son chose a truly wonderful and kind person. I can see it. Surprised, I lifted my head. What I saw through my tear-blurred vision wasn't the cold, icy eyes of Mom that I'd grown used to, but the warm, sunlight gazes of my husband and my in-laws. With her hand still on my back, Kathy said, It's okay, leave it to me. Huh? It's kind of a blessing when you think about it, right? Having a bad example right in front of you. It's a reminder of what not to become, right? Yeah, that's some tough mothering. It's a miracle a wonderful daughter like you came from her, isn't it? Right. Mom gasped in surprise at Fleming's words, but they didn't let Mom speak further. First of all, do you even have the right to talk about your daughter like that? That makeup is way too heavy, and I bet a plain face is hiding underneath it. If you ask me, Susanna is much more beautiful. Are you jealous of Susanna? It must be that. What? That's not... She tried to argue against Kathy's words, but Kathy cut her off with, No way, I'm absolutely certain, and didn't let her get a word in edgewise. And so an endless barrage of criticism towards Mom began. Mom tried to interject with but Kathy's rapid-fire talk gave her no chance. Finally, my mom turned pale and silent. See now, do you realize how awful you are? And with a triumphant, snooty look, she said that, breathing heavily through her nose. Mom seemed to be realizing she couldn't win the argument with words. After her face turned bright red and she wordlessly opened and closed her mouth, she suddenly exclaimed, I can't stay here any longer, and stood up. You're running away. I'm not running away. I'm just refusing to deal with a vulgar person like you any longer, she retorted to Kathy. That's called running away. Under Kathy's relentless questioning, Mom's face grew even redder. Enough! Finally snapping, Mom stomped her foot on the floor. Enough, enough! I've really had enough. I am from London, a person of refinement from the historical city. Yes, that's what I am. Mom began speaking with incredible intensity. but something about her way of speaking seemed off, and I found myself tilting my head in confusion. I live in London, a place everyone envies, you know. In a neighborhood lined with luxury apartments far beyond your reach, living a graceful London life. I had never seen Mom so angry before, so this felt unfamiliar. Do you understand me? I am from London. You should worship, praise, and respect me. What is Mom saying? For the first time, I saw her excited and speaking nonsensically, leaving me utterly bewildered. That's when it happened. I knew it, Kathy said. Standing in front of Mom, who was trying to leave, Kathy pointed at her decisively. You're not really from London, are you? What? Caught off guard by this unexpected accusation, Mom's face froze. Kathy smirked triumphantly. I thought something was strange. You were trying hard to sound like you're from London, but there was a sense of incongruity. The accent was a bit off. That's not true. I am definitely from London. If you think I'm lying, shall I call my friends from London? We have friends who've lived there for generations. What? Why do you even know such people? Well, Fleming is originally from London. What did you say? I was shocked to learn that my father-in-law Fleming was actually from London. Fleming laughed heartily. It's not so unusual for someone from London to live in Los Angeles, right? Fleming casually dropped this bombshell and looked at Kathy. Kathy nodded in agreement. Right, that's why I realized something was off about the way Felicia speaks. It doesn't have the air of someone from London. Mom and I were dumbfounded by this revelation, but the real issue was something else. I glanced at Mom and asked, Mom, aren't you from London? What? That is... Her inability to answer said it all. I had never gotten along with Mom, so I had never asked about her background. Mom's parents, my grandparents, had passed away when I was a baby, so I had never met them. Mom was an only child, and I had never met any of her relatives. Come to think of it, I had never even asked where my grandparents' graves were. It's true then. As I frowned, Mom glared at me. That face of yours, just like my husband. He also looked at me with such contempt. Contempt? I never wanted to bury my bones in some provincial place. I was determined to find someone in London, my dream city, and he just happened to be the one I found. Love wasn't necessary. Mom, reverting to her normal way of speaking, granted with an intense expression. I suppose he knew how I felt, and our relationship was cold. But that didn't matter. I mastered the British accent, and I became a perfect Londoner. My daughter resembling him was an eyesore. A daughter who would abandon my dream and go to America was useless to me. What a revelation. Is it that Mom had a complex about her hometown? But to go as far as having a loveless marriage just to live in a place she idolizes, being that obsessed with it? The idea of moving for work instead of marriage never occurred to her, which was so typical of Mom. Mom, you're a pitiful person. Caught off guard by my blunt words, Mom glared and snapped. What did you say? But I wasn't afraid anymore. I no longer found Mom intimidating. As we glared at each other, Kathy stepped in. Now, no need for such glares. Many people dream of London, but living there isn't easy, right? You must have faced many troubles with that odd English and raised suspicions. Shut up, what does that matter? Hit the nail on the head, did I? Mom, sensing something ominous, began to back away, but Kathy firmly grabbed her shoulder, determined not to let her escape. I'll teach you real English. Huh, I don't need your help, I already speak perfect English. While I gawked at the two of them, Mason paid no attention. Let's enjoy this fancy meal, Fleming suggested. Mason also agreed. Yeah, let's eat, and they began. I wondered if I should interject, but remained in thought. After that, Mom was utterly exhausted and drained from Kathy's relentless exposure. She had become unusually quiet, as if her spirit had been drained. So what happened after that? After I took Mom home, I briefly explained to a puzzled Juliet, who burst into laughter. I felt guilty for burdening Juliet with Mom, but she reassured me. Don't worry, Mom is tough to handle. I can manage, but Susanna, you must have had a hard time dealing with her seriously, she laughed. Furthermore, she added, Sorry I couldn't make it to the dinner because of work. I would have loved to see that scene. Congratulations again on your marriage, Susanna. Mason, please take good care of Susanna, she said with a smile. And I was so touched that I cried. Back in Boston, busy days continued. Though there were tough times, life with Mason was filled with laughter, turning all the hardships into joy. Mom never reverted to her old self, becoming much quieter. Her harsh nature had left her without friends. Soon, Juliet would marry and leave the house, leaving Mom to a lonely future. Sometimes she still makes remarks putting London on a pedestal and looking down on other places. But whenever she does, Juliet would say, Should we call Mason and his parents from Los Angeles? That shuts her up, she said with a laugh. Even though she's quieter now, I can't forget the things Mom said in the past. Even if I have children, I don't feel like letting them meet their grandmother. I don't want my child to look down on others, no matter where they are born or where they live. Thinking this, I gently stroked my belly, nurturing the life within.